Assalamu alaikum, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I will talk about circulatory fluid, or it is called blood. The circulatory system of humans have the same three basic components. The one is circulating fluid, or it is called blood, the pumping organ, the heart, the blood vessels, arteries, capillaries and veins. First of all, what is blood? Blood is a body fluid in humans and other animals that delivers necessary substances such as nutrients and oxygen to the cells and transport metabolic waste products away from those same cells. The blood is the medium in which dissolved nutrients, gases, hormones and waste are transported through the body. It's made up of two main components. The one is plasma and the other is cell or cell-like bodies, or it may be white blood cells, red blood cells and platelets. The weight of the blood in our body is about 1/12 of our body. Next come to functions of blood. It transport of dissolved substances, it regulate of pH and ions, it will be restrict to fluid losses at injury sites, it may be depend on defense against toxins and pathogenic reactions, it will stabilize the body temperature. Physical characteristics of blood. The blood characteristics are divided into two categories. It may be color range. The oxygen rich blood is scarlet red, oxygen poor blood is dull red. pH must remain between 7.35 to 7.45. It may be slightly alkaline. The blood temperature is slightly higher than the body temperature. About 5.6 liters or about 6 quarts of the body may contain blood. First of all, we withdraw blood from person, then place into the tube. The tube will be placed in centrifugation tube. It will centrifuge, and after this tube will contain two types of elements. The one is plasma and the second one is formed elements. The plasma contain water, salts, plasma proteins and transported substances. And the red color contain formed elements. It may be erythrocytes, leukocytes and platelets. What is blood plasma? Plasma, it has been estimated that in normal person, plasma constitutes about 55% of the volume of the blood, and cells or cell-like bodies about 45% of volume of the blood. Plasma is primarily water in which proteins, salts, nutrients and waste are dissolved. Water constitutes about 90% of the plasma and 10% are dissolved substances. Most of the dissolved substances are maintained in a constant or nearly constant level, but others occur in varying concentrations. It includes many dissolved substances, metalloids, respiratory gases, hormones, proteins, and waste products. The substances dissolved or present in plasma vary in their concentrations with the condition of the organisms and with the portion of the system under examination. The solutes can be divided into 6 categories. The first is inorganic salts or mineral ions. Together, the inorganic ions and salts make up 0.9% of the plasma of a humans. By weight, more than 2/3 of this amount is sodium chloride, the ordinary table salt. Even if the total concentration of dissolved substances remain the same, shifts in the concentrations of particular ion can create serious disturbance. The normal pH of human blood is 7.4 and it is maintained between narrow limits because the change in pH would affect the chemical reaction of the body. The second one is plasma proteins. It may constitute 7 to 9% by weight of the plasma. Most of these proteins are synthesized in the liver. Some of the globulins, called immunoglobulins or antibodies, are produced in response to antigens by lymphocytes and then are passed to plasma and lymph. The proteins like prothrombin act as a catalyst in blood clotting process, fibrinogen takes part in the blood clotting process, and immunoglobulins play an important role in body's defense against diseases. And the third category is organic nutrients in the blood. It may include glucose, fats, phospholipids, amino acids, and lactic acids. Some of them enter into the bloodstream from the intestine by absorption. Lactic acid is produced in muscles as a result of glycolysis and is transported by blood to liver. Cholesterol is an important constituent in organic nutrients. It is metabolized to some extent but also serves as precursor of steroid hormones. The next is plasma also contain nitrogenous waste products or metalloins. These are formed as a result of cellular metabolism. These products are carried from the liver where they are produced to the organs from where they are removed, or it may be kidneys. Urea and small amounts of uric acid are present in plasma, or it may also contain hormones. All the hormones in the body are carried by blood, so they are present in the plasma. And some are gases such as carbon dioxide or oxygen. These are called respiratory gases, are present in the plasma of the blood. Plasma proteins, first is albumin, regulates osmotic pressure. Second one is clotting proteins, help to stem blood loss when a blood vessel is injured. Antibodies may help protect the body from antigens. The next is formed elements. The formed elements may be erythrocytes, or it may called red blood cells, leukocytes, white blood cells, and platelets are called cell fragments. This is a table of which characteristics of formed elements of blood are described. The first one is erythrocytes. Erythrocytes occurrence in blood per millimeter cube is 4.4 to 6 million, and leukocytes occurrence 4,000 to 11,000, or it may be granulocytes in which neutrophils and eosinophils are formed. These are the occurrence in blood and varying degrees of distribution. Basophils are also contain 20 to 50% of occurrence in blood, and it's a type of the granulocytes. The next one is agranulocytes. It may contain lymphocytes and monocytes. And the third one is platelets. First of all, we will discuss about erythrocytes, or it is called red blood cells. Red blood cells are called erythrocytes. These are most numerous of the cells in the blood. A cubic millimeter contain 5 to 5.5 million of them in males and 4 to 4.5 millions in females. These cells, when formed, have nucleus, but it is lost before they enter in circulatory fluid or blood. 95% of the cytoplasm of red blood cell is the red pigment called hemoglobin. The remaining 5% consist of enzymes, salts, and other proteins. The red cells, once mature, don't divide. Red blood cells are formed principally in the red bone marrow of short bones. These are sternum, ribs, and vertebrae. In the embryonic life, they are formed in the liver and spleen. The average lifespan of red blood cell is about 4 months, after which it breaks down and disintegrates in the liver and spleen, partially by phagocytes by phagocytosis. The main function is to carry oxygen. Next is what is anatomy of RBCs. It may be biconcave disc, essentially base of hemoglobin, anucleate means non-nucleus and contain very few organelles. Outnumber white blood cells, it may be 1,000:1. What is hemoglobin? Hemoglobin is iron containing protein. It binds strongly but reversibly to oxygen. Each hemoglobin molecule has 4 oxygen binding sites, and each erythrocyte has 250 million hemoglobin molecules. Second form of the formed elements are leukocytes or white blood cells. White blood cells are colorless as they don't contain pigments. 1 cubic meter of blood contains 7,000 to 8,000 of them. They are much larger than the red blood cells. There are at least 5 different types which can be distinguished on the basis of the shape of the nucleus and density of granules in the cytoplasm. They can be grouped into main types. These are granulocytes and agranulocytes. Granulocytes include neutrophils, eosinophils, and basophils. They are formed in the red bone marrow. Agranulocytes are formed in lymphoid tissues such as those of the lymph nodes, spleen, tonsils, adenoids, and the thymus. In other words, agranulocytes include monocytes and lymphocytes, or it may be B and T cells. Monocytes stay from 10 to 20 hours in the blood, then enter tissues and become tissue macrophages that will perform phagocytic function. and the other is lymphocytes have lifespan of months or even years, but this depends on this body needs for these cells. What are functions of WBCs? It's crucial in the body's defense against disease. These are complete cells with a nucleus and organelles. It will be able to move into and out of blood vessels, or it may be called diapedesis. It can respond to chemical released by damaged tissues. The next is leukocyte levels in the blood. Normal levels may contain 4,000 to 11,000 cells per milliliter, and 1 cubic milliliter of blood contains 7,000 to 8,000 of leukocytes. Leukocyte level may be abnormal if two conditions are happen. The first is leukocytosis and the second is leukopenia. If leukocytes are above 11,000 ml in blood, it will indicate an infection, and this condition is called leukocytosis. In leukopenia, abnormally low leukocyte levels are formed, commonly caused by certain drugs, and it will be leukopenia. Types of leukocytes are granulocytes. Granules in the cytoplasm can be stained. It includes neutrophils, eosinophils, and basophils. The granulocytes of neutrophils are multi-lobed nucleus with fine granules. It will act as phagocytes at active sites of infection. And the other is eosinophils. Eosinophils are large, brick red cytoplasmic granules. It's found in response to allergies and parasitic worms. The third is basophils. Basophils may contain histamine containing granules. It initiates inflammation. And the second form of WBC is granulocytes. Granulocytes may contain lymphocytes and monocytes. There are no granules are formed in the A granulocytes. With A granulocytes is without granulocytes, without greens. The first is lymphocytes. Lymphocytes nucleus fills most of the cells and it will play an important role in immune response. The second one is monocytes. Monocytes is the largest of the white blood cells. It functions as macrophages and important in fight chronic infection. The third formed element is platelets. Platelets derived from ruptured multinucleate cells. These are called megakaryocytes. Needed for the clotting process. The normal platelet count is 3 lakh per millimeter cube. Basically, platelets are not cells but are fragments of large cells called megakaryocytes. There is no nucleus in them. Just like RBCs, there is no pigment in them. Platelets help in conversion of fibrinogen, a soluble plasma protein, into insoluble form. Insoluble form is called fibrin. The fibrin threads enmesh red blood cells and other platelets in the area of damaged tissues, ultimately forming a blood clot. The clot serves as a temporary seal to prevent bleeding until the damaged tissues can be repaired. What is hematopoiesis? Hematopoiesis are formation of blood cells. It occurs in red bone marrow. All blood cells are derived from a common stem cells, or it may be called hematocytoblast. What is fate of erythrocytes? Erythrocytes are unable to divide, grow, or synthesize proteins. It's wear out in 100 to 120 days. When worn out, they will be eliminated by phagocytes in the spleen or from liver. Low cells are replaced by division of stem cells. The other term is hemostasis. Hemostasis means stoppage of blood flow. It results of a break in the blood vessels. Hemostasis involves 3 phases: platelet plug formation, second is vascular spasm, and third one is coagulations. The first of hemostasis step is platelet plug formations. Platelet plug formation, in which collagen fibers are exposed by break in the blood vessels. When blood vessels broken, collagen fibers are exposed. Platelets become sticky and cling to fibers. It will anchor platelets, release chemicals to attract more platelets. And platelets pile up to form a platelet plug. It's called platelet plug formation. In a picture, it shows platelet plug formations, and in the right hand, it will be coagulation. What is vascular spasm? The anchored platelets release serotonin, and this serotonin causes blood vessels, muscles to spasm. Spasm narrow blood vessels and decreasing blood loss. The third one is coagulation. The injured tissues release thromboplastins. PF3, a phospholipid, interacts with thromboplastin. It's a blood protein clotting factors and calcium ions to trigger a clotting cascades. Prothrombin activator converts prothrombin to thrombin. Prothrombin is an enzyme activator. Thrombin joins fibrinogen proteins into hair-like fibrin, and fibrin forms a meshwork, the basis for a clot, and it will be a coagulation. What is blood clotting? Blood usually clots within 3 to 6 minutes. The clot remains as endothelium regenerates. The clot is broken down after tissue repair. Undesirable clotting. Undesirable clotting are of two types. The one is thrombus and the other one is embolus. A thrombus, in which a blood clot is in an unbroken blood vessels, can be deadly in areas like the heart. Embolus, a thrombus that breaks away and floats freely in the bloodstream. It's called embolus, and it can later clog vessels in critical areas such as brain. What is bleeding disorders? When thrombocytopenia, it may be caused by viruses, medications, or post-bone sear treatment. Thrombocytopenia is a condition in which platelet deficiency, even normal movements, can cause bleeding from small blood vessels that require platelets for clotting. The other one is hemophilia. Hemophilia is also a bleeding disorder. It's a hereditary bleeding disorder, and normal clotting factors are missing. Blood groups and transfusions. Large losses of blood have serious consequences. The loss of 15 to 30% causes weakness, and the loss of over 30% causes shock, which can be fatal. Transfusions are the only way to replace blood quickly. Transfused blood must be the same blood group.